Welcome, welcome everyone. I hope everybody is doing well. So, I apologize for being late. My husband came over and he brought doggy toys, and we were trying to figure out a good solution to the crappy walls that I have uh, at my place. Um, because, yeah, I don't have the I don't have the best like drywall where I live. It was really cheap drywall, so if you nail anything into my walls or use anchors on anything, nothing ever actually stays. So we were looking at different dog fencing. Well, my husband was looking at different dog fencing. Um, because right now we currently have a baby gate at the top of our stairs to keep our uh, bigger dog, who is my service dog in training, upstairs with me so that he can't chew stuff downstairs. Um, and we also keep him downstairs so that when nobody's upstairs, then, he can't get into anything up here. And for those of you kind of wondering, like, why I said my husband came over, my husband and I have had a successful relationship for the last 6.5 years, somewhere around there, um, with not living together. Um, we have never lived together the entire time that we have been together. Um, we do plan on moving in together at some point. But my place is kind of too small for all five of us. Um, and he lives with my in-laws from when he split from his ex-wife. So, yes. And between all of us, there's five of us, as we're a blended family. So, um, yes. So, how many of you guys have watched any of today's trial? Today's trial was just wow. I haven't even watched it all. And, hearing all of these officers constantly pass the buck and say, oh, well, this part wasn't my job, or I don't know anything because it wasn't my job. Like the one cop was tasked to basically look into Chris Ferris, and literally he didn't do a data dump on the phone, he didn't check text messages, he didn't anything. He even told Chris Ferris about some of the stuff that was found while sitting there saying, well, nobody was cleared as a suspect at the time or person of interest. He's like, it's kind of like Schrodinger's cat, where it's dead, it's alive, and it's in the box all in one. And it's like, wait, excuse me, then why are you giving out information about the case to Chris Ferris as a warning? Like, come on. So that's just me on that one. I think that it is absolutely insane that this is even a thing, that this is even something that we have to concern ourselves with right now. Um, then you have the assistant coroner, I think she was, or the assistant medical examiner, something like that. Um, and yet, they're not actually able to sit here and give what the heck is going on with this. Um, and I really think that it's weird. Um, I believe that, the assistant medical examiner saying um, that, I'm trying to think. The assistant medical examiner, saying that, like, well, yes, she has moved a body by herself, that um that she typically uses some sort of device. um it's just, I don't know, to me it's strange. It's really, really strange. um because honestly, I find that they didn't do enough work while um I feel like they didn't do enough as far as collecting of evidence, um and things like that go, which is really, really disappointing. Because I feel like they should have done a better job of collecting evidence. Um, but again, that is just me. Um, I don't actually have any control over what they did or did not um, bother collecting. And I find it very disappointing that, there was a lot of blood left untested, and great blood sources too. Um, and I'm really disappointed that they didn't do a deeper dive um, into what was actually going on in the case. Um, like, why are you not going to do further testing of the I've got the hiccups, I'm sorry, of the DNA. Um, why aren't you going to do further testing of the DNA other than to tell us that it's mammalian blood? Why are we not testing to see, is it male or female? Like, if you don't have enough, can you at least test to that point, like to tell, is it male or female? Um, that I feel like would have even have gone a farther way than just it's mammalian blood. Like, um, and they're not able to give a DNA profile on a lot. Um, and I find that very disturbing too. It's insane. Um, Also, my husband did tell me that if I wanted, I could get a portable monitor for my laptop, and I'm highly considering it. This way I can work on Streamlabs as I need to, um, while I am also, um, while I'm also getting things ready. Um, so like as I jump to and from like the trials and things like that, um, I will then be able to utilize Streamlabs um, in the background without disturbing the video, like what was happening yesterday, where I was bringing up additional things and my Streamlabs kept cutting out on the video. So that wouldn't happen with a portable monitor. So I'm very highly considering it. I guess we will see how that works. I'm still messing with my Streamlabs bot and my Nightbot. So I apologize. You will still potentially see both in the stream. I apologize. Um, I am only one person trying to get everything set up um, for the channel by myself. Um, so yes. Um, YouTube for some reason is not showing me my like live streams while I am doing them. So what I am currently doing is uh, trying to watch it from my phone itself. There we go. Okay, I was able to actually maybe. Okay. Um, I was actually able to hop into my live studio on YouTube, so that's nice. I wasn't able to do that last time. Um, so just so everybody knows, um, I am considering getting a monitor, as a backup for my YouTube, and our streaming so that it doesn't disrupt from there. Give me 1 second because I am setting up my Streamlabs to work. Because I would much prefer Streamlabs over Nightbot. All right, so now that I have my Streamlabs set up over my Nightbot, without further ado, let's jump back into day one. Now, we are almost finished with day one, and we are currently going to then be jumping into day two. So my fingers are crossed that we will be able to get into day two today. So let's jump right in. I'm going to mute myself and then I will jump right into our stream.
We built a 7-figure business as a 2-person agency, and I wish we had HoneyBook when we started 10 years ago.
Businesses.
Unanswered questions in a case like this. Really, the only answer is not guilty. Thank you. All right, Mr. Fogus, you got witnesses ready?
Please, Judge. The first one is by the previous stipulation.
All right, go ahead.
Y'all can decide whether y'all want the mobile lectern to stay there or whether y'all want to get rid of it. The last trial, everybody used both of them. So.
It's good, Judge, if we can keep it. You know, the first exhibit is going to be, it's labeled 911-1 for 911 call, and it is July 5th, 2018 at 12:47 p.m. July 5th, 2018 at 12:47 p.m. It's about 2 minutes and 21 seconds, and it's Scott Ferris. And Judge, I tune that into evidence this time by stipulation. All right. May I publish it? It's 911 and then 1 in parenthetical.
Sure would be offered by you.
I'm not.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Y'all agree to the foundation anymore.
Two one five five for sale, Blaine. My father has come up missing, and we just searched the property. It's a small farm, and I just found something near the farm that doesn't. He was burning brush. Now there's nothing to fire that. It could be him. I don't know.
Okay. All right, sir. What's Purcell Lane run off of?
It's right off of Birmingham Road.
You said 2155 Purcell Lane, that's correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is your name?
Scott Ferris, Farris.
What's a good callback number for you, Scott?
404-861-2667.
How old is you said your father?
Yes, sir.
How old is he?
He just turned
60.
on the 68, yeah.
68, okay.
Now I'm calling you to say that we've been walking around looking for him, and I went where the fire's still small, and I'm ex-military. I was deployed to Iraq. I've seen what burned up bodies look like, and this looks like a body.
Okay. All right, sir. I've got him on the Got them on the way out there for you. I'm going to send the police and the fire department out there. Just try and lead everything that you can, the way you found it down there, and we've got them on the way out there for you, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else I can do for you, sir?
No, that'll be it.
All right, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
State house, Sarah Love. Sarah Love. We're doing that system, so it's just 911 one. And it when you go into it, like when you go into the front door, it'll back on that.
Stand up and stretch.
That's you right there, Captain. Raise your right hand. Please tell me swear affirm the evidence you're about to present in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat, make yourself comfortable. State your full name for the record.
Sarah Jane Love.
And where do you work and what do you do?
I'm a firefighter paramedic with Cherokee County Fire and Emergency Services.
What's your rank there?
Captain.
Tell the jury how long you've been doing what you do.
Well, I've been a paramedic for 28 years, and I've been with the fire department for almost 22.
And what is I know there's paramedics, EMTs, and firefighters. What are they all and how are they different?
So there's an EMTI, which is like a basic, the lowest level you can work on an ambulance, and then an advanced, and then a paramedic.
And do you have a certain area that you work in the county, or is it just, how does that work?
You're typically assigned to a station.
You ever had to
a
testify
zone.
before at a trial?
I'm sorry?
You ever had to testify before at a trial?
Yes.
And you know why you're here today?
Yes.
I want to turn your attention now back to July 5th of 2018. It was a Thursday. I think y'all responded around right around 12:59 p.m. to the residents in this case. Is that right?
I don't have the date and times in front of me, but yes, we did respond.
Do you remember, was it midday, afternoon?
Afternoon, I believe.
Okay, if I told you around 1 o'clock, any reason to disagree with me on that?
No.
All right. And do you remember where you went to, where the property was?
Yeah, it was in the area of Freeholm or Alpharetta.
2155 Purcell Lane in Alpharetta, Georgia.
Yes.
Is that the residence?
Yes. Okay.
And this was the Ferris house, is that right?
I believe so, sir.
And was the house where you went and where all this occurred, what county was that in?
Cherokee County.
Do you remember what you got called out for?
We got called out for a person fell into a fire.
Just a person falling into a fire?
Initially, yes, sir.
Now, as you were heading out there, tell the jury just kind of what did you pack up, what did you take, and what did you...
Okay, now pay close attention to her because she is going to sit here and tell us about how this was initially just a call that somebody fell into the fire. And she explains how, yeah, the scene was a little weird, but nothing too out of the ordinary for what they were being called for. She also is the beginning catalyst to all of the things that law enforcement and medical examiners and such failed to do. So it's really interesting to see how this one is ultimately going to play out. Um, it's really the beginning stages of when they start dropping the ball. Um, and this is the first of many witnesses that ultimately end up um, becoming better witnesses for the defense than the prosecution. So I'm going to remute and I'm going to unpause our video.
You expect to see?
Well, we responded with the fire truck and the ambulance. I was on the ambulance that day. We were originally dispatched to a person falling in the fire, and then it became a person down call, which means that they need resuscitation.
Means what? I'm sorry.
They need to be resuscitated. They don't have a pulse or not breathing.
As you were going there and going to the scene, what did you think you were going to find?
We were going to find a patient that needed to be resuscitated.
Like a person?
Yes.
Maybe just falling out or something?
Yeah, just from the information, he fell in the fire.
When you got there, do you remember seeing anybody from the family, a son or not?
Yes, somebody met us at the end of the driveway. The driveway was pretty long, so the guys on the fire truck were getting onto the ambulance with us to ride in, and there was a gentleman there at the end of the driveway so that he would show us where the body was at.
Were y'all there first before law enforcement, the sheriff's department?
I believe so, but they wasn't far behind us.
How long did it take you to get there from the call? The call came out about 12:47. Did it take you very long?
I don't believe so. I don't have my reports. I don't know exactly how long.
Was it a short drive?
Fairly short, yeah.
And when you arrived, just kind of tell the jury what you remember seeing and what was going on.
So initially we stopped at the driveway, picked up what we found out later was the gentleman's son. He was telling us that he had been in Afghanistan and he had seen burned bodies before and he knew what they looked like, and I was trying to get information about if he was, breathing, if he was alert at the time, or, more information about the patient. And he just kept saying that over and over. And then when we got to the house, he rode in the back of the ambulance. When we got to the house, he walked us around to the back side of the house, to a large burn area.
When you first met with, who's going to be Scott, we believe, the son,
Yeah.
when you first met with him, when you were talking to him, were you trying to ask him questions to see if he would answer them?
I was just trying to find out what kind of condition at the time we assumed the patient was going to be in. If we were going to be working a cardiac arrest or just treating a burn patient, or what we were going to find when we got around to the back.
Was that because you thought there was going to be a human being there?
Mm-hmm.
And when you were asking him questions, was it his state of mind? Was he telling you stuff? Was he able to tell you things?
He just kept saying over and over that he knew what a burned body looked like, and I was asking more like, was he breathing and was he conscious? And he just kept saying he knew what a burned body looked like.
You're not supposed to witness. Go ahead. I don't have to ask. Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Now, we've marked exhibits a little differently in this case. Instead of 1 through whatever it is, we've met and marked them by numbers. Go ahead and take those if you haven't. Look at those. You had an opportunity to look at photographs before, probably, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and look at those and see if those. Now, it's going to be labeled aerial, as in aerial photographs. Go ahead and look at 1 through 14. Are those photographs, aerial 1 through 14, do they fairly accurately represent the area that we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Judge, this time I tender to evidence aerial 1 through aerial 14. Judge, after a meeting, I just publish it without asking permission.
That's fine. Thank you. Anything we can do.
You see on your screen there, this is aerial 1. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
If I look at the screen, this is just showing from the courthouse to the scene. Can you tell the jury about how long, how many miles it is, approximately normal drive, how much time?
From the courthouse, 34 minutes and 16 miles.
About 34 minutes or 16 and a half miles, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And Purcell Lane, what area of the county is that in, Cherokee County?
That'd be the northeastern corner.
And what is that, what type of homes and things are out there? Nice homes?
Yes, fairly large homes.
Expensive area?
Yes,
Affluent
sir.
area, I guess is what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
And where were you coming from when you went there?
So where it says Freehome on the map and Highway 20, our station is about very close to Highway 20 at that where you would have turned off of Highway 20. Our station's right there.
This is aerial 2. This is showing coming down the road, Purcell Lane, as you come down Purcell. And you, was the driveway where you picked up Scott, was that at the kind of right there where Purcell Lane is and the driveway meets?
Yes, sir.
So do you remember the long driveway going up?
Yes.
So did you meet Scott down here or up in the driveway? Where was it?
At Purcell Lane, the fire engine's too big to get down the driveway. So the ambulance stopped there, and the crew from the fire truck jumped on the back of the ambulance.
So everybody hopped in the ambulance and went up the driveway?
Yeah.
Aerial 3, this is just an overhead Google map showing the property is. How would you describe this property if you could say, this is the type of property, this is what it was like?
It's a very large, nice property. Couldn't really see the house at all from the road, from the trees. It's a very large property.
We've taken some aerials about a year later, some drone photographs that you've been able to review. And this is aerial 4, so this is a snippet, if you would, from an aerial. Does this kind of look like the area that you went to on July 5th of 2018?
Yes, sir. I was more or less looking in the back, talking to the son. So I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to the driveway, but yes, sir, that is the...
As we look at aerial 4, this photograph on the left of the screen is this big long driveway. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
As aerial 5, as you move up the driveway, is it correct to say that there's a road or driveway that goes to the right to the barn, but y'all went straight up to the house?
Correct, sir.
Election Day is Tuesday, November 5th. Make a plan to get to the polls and cast your ballot. This election is going to be a close one. Your vote is your voice, and your voice is your power.
Hi, my name is Crystal Bannon, and I'm a breast cancer survivor. I was putting on my sports bra and...
And then aerial 6, is this an aerial showing the pond?
Yes, sir.
Is this the house behind the trees here?
It appears to be, yes, sir.
How about that?
Okay, so that aerial of the pond, that they dragged looking for the gun. You can see that it is relatively close house to where Gary Ferris was found in the burn pile. But it's only so big. It's not a huge pond. It's not like some big giant lake like the prosecution tries to make it sound at times. It's legitimately a little dinky pond. And so to me, this also goes to show that whoever killed Gary had some level of pre-planning if law enforcement still haven't found the gun. And if they hadn't found the gun by a year into this investigation. So to me, it's just crazy. And if you did listen to her, she did state that she didn't personally go back to the burn pile at the time that he was asking about it, that she had mostly been talking to the son at that point. And so that really just goes to show how into this investigation, at least one of the sons was extremely interested and injecting himself to some extent with making sure that he talked to everybody at the scene to let them know that it wasn't him and it wasn't his brother and it wasn't his sisters, it was his mom. And so this is just the beginning of showing you how many people at that scene Scott Ferris made sure that he talked to so he looked innocent. And again, guys, I am not saying one way or another if Melody Ferris actually did this. I still believe if she did, she had help. I believe that possibly the kids helped her. I understand that they have a contentious relationship, but you will do some really weird things for your parents' acceptance if you think that you will get it. Especially if there really was an abusive dynamic like Chris and Scott both admit to. Now, Emily Ferris, did not testify to the same abuse that Chris Ferris claims that he got from his mother. So I find it funny. But yeah, I just wanted to give that little tidbit about this being the pond that they dragged for the gun and came up empty. And back to testimony.
Harold
Yes,
7.
Yes, sir, that is the house.
Harold 8, just another overview. Now, when you parked, and again, this is about a year later, but as you walk, did y'all walk around as where my mouse is on this item that's here, this white item? Did y'all go around this side, this left side, if you were facing the house?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
And then as you came around, did you come over to the back side where the burn pile was?
Yes, sir, we did.
Tell the jury, when you arrived expecting to see a person, when did things change for you? What did you see and what changed it?
As we're walking up to the burn pit, you could see some long bones. I saw a foot and the skull.
And when you saw that, what in your mind was going on? What were you saying to yourself?
I was trying to make sense of it. It's not something you would typically see, so I was like trying to, like the skull, I thought maybe it was a rock. So I kind of moved it a little bit and put it back the way I found it. And the foot, is probably what stands out the most is the foot.
What things, equipment did you have with you to expect to find a person?
So the guys from the engine grabbed the bed and the equipment, the cardiac monitor, the jump bag, and they were coming behind me, and me and the son were walking, a little bit ahead of them.
When you got there, what was found and what happened?
Well, when I saw the bones, I advised dispatch that it wasn't a person down. It was a signal 48, which means a deceased person, and then to have the coroner en route.
Did anybody touch the bones or do anything with it?
Only like I said, sir, the top of the skull looked like it may have been a rock, so I kind of lifted it a little bit and then put it back where it was when I realized it was definitely the skull.
So things changed from a person being held to a body, basically,
Correct.
remains. Is that
Yes, sir.
fair? Did law enforcement, were they quickly on the scene at that point? Did they come up?
Yeah, I remember them being right behind us.
Now, I know you've probably seen a lot of things in your career, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
But did this shock you?
Yes, sir.
Let's take aerial 11, just showing this is a photograph showing the house in relation to the pond.
Yes, sir.
Aerial 12 going back over the pond to the arena, the sand pit. Is that fair?
Okay, so you can see how close the pond is. You can see the edge of it right here to the sand pit, and it's not all that far either from the burn pile. You can see all three in this general picture. And honestly, later on in testimony, the assistant coroner or the assistant medical examiner, I forget what her job title was, but she did testify today that that she could smell the fire from a half a mile away at her house, which I think is funny. We will get to that testimony, especially considering they do show an aerial of the entire, like, of a decent patch near the Ferris's home. So I want you guys to keep in mind of how big this property actually is when that testimony comes up, because as you can see, I mean, it's a large property, several acres. And everything, though, in reference to this is so close together, even though it looks really far apart. I grew up on 3.5 acres of land, which is probably about the size of what is shown right here, give or take, like an acre or so. So I understand that to a regular person, in the grand scheme of distance, this is a decent distance. But for somebody who grew up in the country and is used to farm distances, this really isn't all that far. It takes maybe 2 minutes to walk from the pond to the sand pit, and possibly another 2 to 3 minutes to walk from the sand pit over to the burn pile. So it's really fairly close together in the grand scheme of overall country map. But I just found it very interesting, the fact that everything is so close together, and yet there's absolutely zero signs of how he got into the burn pit. There's not really any tracks. There's no, like, blood evidence leading off to the sand pit. You know, and somebody who was shot, you would think would be bleeding a lot. Or at least enough to be leaving behind some sort of biological evidence. And so it's more of the I don't knows. It's more where they dropped the ball from here on out. And I just find it really interesting. I really do.
Yes, sir.
13 just marching back down the driveway, leaving.
Yes, sir.
And then 14 just going back to the road.
Yes, sir.
Now, you've had an opportunity to look at law enforcement was able to do some drone videos about a year later in June of 2019. Did you have an opportunity to look at those drone videos?
I did.
Judge, at this time, and were those videos fair and accurate as you know the property to be when you saw it?
Yes, sir.
I tender evidence now aerial 15, aerial 16, and aerial 17, which are 3 drone videos done by the sheriff's office about a year later.
All right, any objections?
No objection.
All right, they're admitted. Go ahead.
I'm just going to let this one play. It's about 2 minutes and 10 seconds long. Just maybe dim the lights, or it's not.
Dim the lights, not better. Flip the switch, right? Flip the switch down. We play now aerial 16, which is about 7 minutes and 13 seconds long. And Captain Love, while that's going on, you went around this, as the drone is going, this left side is kind of how y'all approach the burn pile.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Captain Love, on State's Exhibit Aerial 16, roughly right at 7 minutes, is this a view showing from the burn pile to the house?
Yes, sir.
I'm Ken, and I'm a former Trump voter. His disrespect for the military, for the people that serve in the military, and for his incessant lying, his total lack of character, there's no way that I could support him to be president of the United States again. As far as the choice to vote for Kamala Harris, absolutely no.
Next is State's Exhibit Aerial 17, which is 4 minutes and 27 seconds. Another drone video. Captain on State's exhibit aerial 17, roughly at 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Is it showing two doors on that side of the house, on the basement level?
Yes, sir.
After you realized what you were dealing with, did you turn the scene over to law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Anything?
Yes, Your Honor.
Like, we need to replay the video.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Flip them back up, please.
Good afternoon, Captain Love. My name is John Luke Weaver, and I represent Melody Ferris in this matter. And it is Captain, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So on that day, you responded with who?
Me and my partner, Kenny Holland, were on the ambulance. On the fire truck was Jacob Kinney and Megan Hamilton.
Okay. So you got off of the ambulance.
Yes.
And you get, again, the fire truck could not make it up the driveway.
Correct.
Why was that?
Because the weight of the fire truck, we don't typically drive the fire truck on driveways. If it's a long driveway, they'll either have to walk or they'll jump in the back of the ambulance with us. And on that call, they jumped in the back of the ambulance.
So you get out, you've got your pack, you don't really know what you have at the time, as you testified to earlier, but you walked up the driveway and you encountered, who did you encounter?
So at the end of the driveway, when we stopped and the crew from the fire truck was getting on, there was a gentleman at the end of the driveway telling us that he could show us where at the time we thought a patient was.
Okay. Now, you stated earlier that he kept saying to you he knew what a burned body looked like.
Correct.
And that's something that's resonated in your memory 6.5 years later.
Yes, sir.
All right. That was Scott Ferris, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. What was his demeanor?
He was, I guess the best word is just panicked.
Okay. Do you remember anything else? Did he say anything else to you about where the location of this was?
That he would show us. He said it was a pretty good walk. He would show us where it was.
Now, were there any other family members close by as this was happening?
I did not see anyone else.
Did you speak to any of the other family members on the property?
No, sir.
Did he mention to you or to anybody that worked with you that day, did he ever bring up anything about a missing gun?
No, sir.
All right. But how many times do you think he said he knew what a burned body looked like?
Probably 2-3 times when I was asking him questions when we were still in the back of the ambulance.
All right. Do you remember anything else he said?
I don't remember when he said it, but he said his dad had been missing for a couple of days and they'd been looking for him, but that wasn't unusual for him to be missing, I guess.
He said that to you?
Yes.
Okay. And that's when he walked you back there himself?
Yes.
And that was just as we saw in the video, back down the house, from behind the house. What would you say the grade on that piece of property was?
It was a little bit of an incline, but not too steep.
All right. And how far behind? I mean, because videos and pictures certainly don't do justice necessarily to being there in person. How far behind the house would you say that burn pile was?
I couldn't tell you. Because, I mean, at the time, I'm not thinking about how far I'm walking. I'm just, like, walking, trying to get some information and thinking about what we're going to do.
So generally speaking, so the images that we saw today were taken roughly a year later. You didn't take those pictures, correct?
Correct.
Right. But Compare and contrast the state of the burn pile that day, July the 5th, 2018.
Just in reference to my report, I estimated it was probably about a 6 foot in diameter. I don't remember, I think 3 feet maybe high.
Was it still smoking? Could you tell? Was it hot?
I don't remember seeing any smoke. And we didn't bring our thermometer down there to check because we were on an EMS call. We were thinking, you know.
Okay, so here's something that I really, really want to point out, and I was waiting for this point, and I'm sorry that this end part has been like a lot of videos and a lot of pictures, so there isn't really a whole lot that I can comment on. But she specifically states that they did not do any temperature readings or anything like that. Whereas the assistant coroner, the assistant medical examiner today testified the exact degrees of the burn pile on one side versus the other, and stated that it was still smoldering. So for this woman to have been there within moments of police arriving because she was so close, you would think that she would also see some smoldering and be able to tell roughly how hot it was. You know, oh, this side was significantly hotter than that side. You could still feel heat coming off of one side where the other side you could not. You don't need the exact temperature to be able to tell if something is hot in one spot or not, especially like a smoldering fire. You can still kind of sort of feel some of that heat coming off. You can kind of see physically some of the color changes. Parts of it'll be black and charred, and you know, some of it'll be gray, and some of it will have like a reddish glow to it or an orangey color. So it just seems weird to me that we have tons of inconsistent statements throughout this trial by everybody. It's not just her, it is literally every officer, every coroner, every medical examiner, every firefighter, every investigator. They all give something slightly different, and nobody gives a clear, consistent picture of what the crime scene looked like. And a lot of these images and drone footage, as you can hear, were taken at least a year later. So how is that an accurate representation of what the scene looked like at the time? It just baffles me. There's so many more questions than answers in this case, and it really drives me nuts, especially at this beginning stage of day 1 and day 2.
You know, get the patient, go to the hospital.
And you mentioned that, now, did you have any gloves or anything like that on?
Yeah, we had medical exam gloves on.
So I imagine that you wouldn't have thought it was a very hot fire if you would reach down and touch it.
No, sir, it wasn't.
All right. When you touched what was a remain, was it hot?
I don't remember being.
This is another thing that I really, really want to touch on. She was capable of using medical examiner's gloves, and she was supposedly there, one of the first ones on the scene, because she was so close. So how is she capable of saying that it wasn't so hot that she could handle the body with medical examiner gloves, and that she doesn't remember it being that hot, and it wasn't so hot that she couldn't work with the body and things like that? But the assistant medical examiner, the assistant coroner, whoever it was that testified today, specifically stated it was like 280 degrees or something on the right side and like 80 some degrees on the left. What? like, I totally understand how a fire, as it's going out, one side could be not as hot as the other. But if the assistant coroner or the assistant medical examiner was getting those readings after this woman had arrived, or even roughly the same time that this woman had arrived, because the assistant medical examiner or the assistant coroner, whatever she was, today stated that she lived a half a mile from um, the Ferris's residence. So she also arrived there fairly quickly. So why are both stories for both people who were nearby and could arrive extremely quickly so drastically different? Answer me that, because I'm curious.
Hot, not like to burn me. It was warm outside, so I mean, it wasn't like it was on fire currently or enough to burn me, but it was, I guess, ambient temperature.
There'll be a number of expert witnesses. I expect that the state is going to. I keep thinking there's a map up there, but there's not. There's a number of expert witnesses that I believe the state's going to call, kind of talking about how they have mapped out the burn pit.
Agora Cyber Charter School is ready to put over 18 years of being a leader in online education to work for you.
The burn pile, where certain things were found within the burn pile. But you stated that you picked up what I believe you believe to be the skull of Mr. Ferris.
I didn't know who, but yes, it appeared to be a skull.
But you picked it up, yes?
I didn't pick it up.
Okay.
I lifted like the corner and let it lay back down to where it was.
Immediately laid it back down?
Yeah, I did not move it.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't pick it up to move it.
You didn't pick it up and hold it in your hand?
No, sir.
You just
I just
rolled
made
it
sure
and
it
put
was.
it back.
I just made sure it was like not a rock, and there was,
And that would have been when you made the signal 48?
Yes, sir.
Was Scott Ferris standing there when you were doing that?
I assume so. I mean, he walked us back there, and he was still back there when we were leaving. I don't think he left.
Any other family members around?
I do not remember any other family members.
Did you ever remember speaking with my client, Melody Ferris?
No, sir.
And did you see her even?
I did not.
When you walk down there, and I believe this is important, so I take your time to answer this question. Because all of Cherokee County responded following you after your signal 48. Did you ever notice any tractor marks near the fire?
I did not notice, sir.
All right. Did you notice any RTV tire treads? Like a tire tread, a car tread, any kind of a tire?
I did not notice.
All right. How about, could you see where horse hoof marks?
Notice that she says she doesn't see any tire marks or tractor marks or anything like that. And even if crime scene investigators were walking around and stuff, she arrived early enough that you should be able to see tire marks or tractor marks or some sort of mark going to and from that burn pile if they were actually there. This is another thing. Like, during today's testimony, one of the investigators specifically stated that he saw some tire marks going to that pile. How is there so many inconsistent statements in this trial where people who should be looking for this type of evidence either don't see what people later testify to, or they do see what other people later testify to, but their testimony of what they saw doesn't actually match up? And I'm not saying that there's a conspiracy here. I'm just saying that there was a lot of incompetence going on in this investigation. I feel that there was a lot that should have been documented that was not. And I feel that they did not do a thorough enough investigation to be able to prove one way or another, significantly, without a doubt, that this case was Melody Ferris who killed her husband. I don't even think that they have collected enough evidence to be able to prove who murdered Gary Ferris, just that he was murdered.
Marks would be somewhere around the fire. Could you see any of that?
I didn't notice anything like that.
All right. Any tools or implements for the fire?
I didn't notice. I wasn't looking for stuff like that either.
Yes, ma'am.
But I did not notice.
Okay. Anything else you would remember about that day?
No, sir.
How long did you leave after the Signal 48?
Pretty quickly after I called and told them that it was a Signal 48 and law enforcement was there, we turned the scene over quickly as possible, especially for the ambulance to get back in service for, the next emergency call. So we left pretty quickly.
If I may have one brief second, Your Honor. That's all I have, Judge. Thank you.
Can you redirect? No, Your Honor.
All right, you can sit down. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, you may as well call.
All right. That's fine. All right, call your next witness.
This is time to state calls Robert Raleigh. Robert Raleigh.
Y'all stretch.
Just before we allow, we'd like to finish with this witness today. We won't be more after this.
How much you got? How long will it be?
This won't be very long.
You got another one you could call?
Next is
Next is gonna be long. Are they here? We'll do the preliminary stuff.
Sir, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you about to present in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Have a seat, state your name for the record, and tell us where you work and what do you do?
I'm Ben Riley. I work for Cherokee County Sheriff's Department, UPD. Been there 11 and a half years.
And what do you do at the Sheriff's Department?
Investigate crimes, car crashes, supervise, and road patrol.
I want to turn your attention now to Thursday, July 5th, 2018, probably right around 1 p.m. Did you respond to 2155 Purcell Lane in Alpharetta, Cherokee County, Georgia?
I did.
Tell the jury what you responded for.
I responded for a person down. Essentially, I guess the son of the mother called and said he'd been to Iraq, seen a person burning before, he knows what it looks like, and I responded as the supervisor.
Where'd you come from?
That precinct.
How long did it take you to get there?
It took me quite a while.
And when you respond, what do you remember seeing there?
There was some family outside, and there was another deputy at the front porch.
You got your cell phone with you?
I do.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Do me a favor, the judge allows. Can you Google what day of the week is July 5th, 2018?
Judge, you okay?
I've got a calendar. This is Perkins County. No objection. Judge, I'll tender to evidence now State's Exhibit Raleigh 1, which is a calendar. Did you beat me?
Yes. There you go.
All right. So looking at State's Exhibit Raleigh 1 for your name and your one exhibit there, number 1. July 2018, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So you respond July 5th, which is a Thursday?
Yes, sir.
About 1 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
And do you have an opportunity to review State's Exhibit Raleigh 2, which is just a portion of your video from your patrol vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Is it fair and accurate and describe you pulling up the driveway?
Yes, sir.
Judge, at this time I'm tendering to evidence State's Exhibit Raleigh 2, which is a clip from his patrol vehicle video.
All right. Okay.
Tendering to evidence this time.
Go ahead.
This you?
Yes, sir.
street, you'll see yourself walking up there?
Yes, sir.
I have no idea. It looks like one of ours. You go around to the left of the house? Yes, sir. Thank you.
When you arrived, where did you go?
I went to the left side of the house.
And where'd you end up?
Inside the house.
Did you go in the, who did you see in the house? Did you see Melody Ferris, the defendant in the house?
Yes, sir.
Now, let the record reflect, is this the defendant that you saw in the house?
You know, I believe so.
Okay.
It's 6 years ago. Yes, sir.
All right. She looked like the person that you saw?
Yes, sir.
When you went in, where was she at?
She was on the outside, and then she came on inside.
Did you clear the house?
I did.
Tell the jury what clearing the house is.
So clearing the house is anytime you go on scene, you need to make sure that nothing else is inside the house, and that's just standard operating procedure, what we do.
When you walked in, did the defendant go and get anything from the house?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
She asked if she could enter the house. She forgot to get 2 rings that were inside her drawer, and I allowed her to do so. And we went inside the house. She went into a junk drawer and pulled out 2 rings and put them on her ring finger.
Where was this in the house? Do you remember?
It was on inside the kitchen.
Kitchen area?
Yes, sir.
And then after that, what happened?
And then she left. She went back outside.
At any point while you were out there, were you, I guess, tasked with doing security or making sure nothing was getting moved, things like that?
Yes, sir.
And did you ever smell anything?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury what you smelled.
Just like cleaning solution, like bleach. It was a very faint odor.
Remember anything about a candle?
Yes.
Okay. Let it be said, if you are cleaning up a crime scene of this magnitude, where somebody has been shot, they are going to bleed significantly. There will be way more cleaning supplies needed than to have a faint odor of cleaning supplies. Even if I did like just the regular mopping downstairs, it smells fairly strongly of cleaning supplies for like 6 hours. Now, I could just be super sensitive to smells, but it usually takes like wax melts downstairs and upstairs for me to not smell it for quite as long. And all it does is masks a small amount of the fragrance and not a full amount of the fragrance. So it's really interesting to me that they're trying to use the fact that the house mildly smelled like cleaning supplies. It could have mildly cleaned like cleaning supplies if Melody just wiped off the countertop within like the last hour. Maybe she made Addison and Cameron breakfast that morning, or maybe, you know, she finished cooking the night before, put the stuff away, and didn't feel like cleaning up the kitchen, so she did it that morning. Like, there's a million reasons why it would smell faintly of cleaning supplies, but I can tell you the deep cleaning that you're going to need to do to get rid of the copious amounts of blood that there should be at this crime scene is astounding. So yeah, and the fact that it only mildly smelled like cleaning supplies with all the cleaning that was going to need done seems very strange to me.
The candle was reflected in my report. I can't remember exactly the candle. It was 6 years ago.
But there was a candle burning in the house?
Yes, sir.
Nothing further, Judge.
All right, Mr. Weaver?
Did I hear you say, are you corporal?
Yes, sir.
Corporal, I'm John Luke Weaver, and I represent Melody Ferris. So, what you just summed up, was that, how long were you there that day?
I was there for a while. I mean, if it happened at 1 o'clock, I wasn't relieved until about 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Right, so you were there 4 or 5 hours.
Sure.
All right. And you were the first one to respond for Cherokee County Sheriff's Office?
Incorrect.
Okay. Who was?
I believe it was be on CAD, but I know that I relieved Deputy Moss at the time.
All right. So there had already been a number of people there by the time you got there.
Sure.
All right. And you walk in. Were you the first person to talk to Miss Ferris that you know of?
I don't know.
Had anybody else? So you walked in the house immediately once you got there?
I don't remember.
All right. And you walked in the house and you immediately smelled. What did you say you smelled?
The odor like a cleaning solution, like bleach.
All right. Did you walk into a laundry room? Did you notice there was a laundry room close by when you walked in the house?
I don't remember.
Okay, you don't remember. And a candle? What did you say you smelled a candle burning?
I believe there was it reflected in my report that there was a candle. I don't recall.
Because you don't recall the candle?
Correct.
Then why would you write in a report that this candle was important to you, but you don't remember what it was?
Because that's 6 years ago.
Okay. Is it unusual for people to have a candle burning in their house?
Sure. Is it unusual?
Yes. Is it unusual? Or is it usual?
Yeah.
It's normal.
Correct.
So why was that unusual to you?
I don't know.
Okay. And is it unusual for people to clean their houses?
Yeah, that's standard.
It's standard. And when you walk into a house, some of them smell clean, correct?
Sure.
All right. And would this have been any more different than if you walked into anybody's clean house? Yours, for example?
No.
That's all I have, Judge. Okay, hold on. One more. All right, so you cleared this house, yes?
Correct.
All right. And was anybody else with you?
I believe Deputy Moss.
Okay. And when you cleared this house, did you notice anything else out of place?
I don't know.
Okay. Did you notice any blood splatter?
No, sir.
Did you notice any droplets of blood?
No, sir.
Did you notice a bullet surreptitiously placed in the floor in the basement?
No, sir.
Okay. Nothing else. You just noticed maybe the smell of, you say bleach, maybe.
Yeah, cleaning solution, bleach.
And a candle.
Yes, sir.
But you don't remember what the candle smelled like?
No.
Okay. Anything else? Fair.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Debbie, I want to follow up on this candle. I think you were in the kitchen, is that right?
Correct.
And you say it's been 6 years?
Yes.
Don't remember everything?
Don't.
Did you write a report?
Yes, sir.
Are you taught to write something significant or important to put in your report?
Absolutely.
Would it refresh your memory, your recollection, to be able to look at your report and see what you said or wrote down about the candle?
Yes.
With HoneyBook, you can make sure your marketing business is as polished and professional as you really are. Here's how. I'm Millie.
With all this technology now, I have the reports on my laptop. So what I want you to do is take my laptop, just hold it to yourself. Is that your report?
Yes, sir.
Do me a favor, go ahead and just read it to yourself. Don't read it out loud. Go to the section at the bottom there where it talks about the candle. All right, now being in the kitchen, there was a door. Where was the candle at?
I don't remember it was a big house. I don't remember exactly where the candle was.
Okay. You remember what room it is?
No, sir.
Do you now recall what you wrote in your report where the candle was?
Yeah, the candle was being lit in front of the basement door.
May I approach you on? Basement door.
Yes, sir.
Nothing further.
Did you take any photos of where this candle was?
No, sir.
Are you aware of any being taken of this candle?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Did you ever look in the dining room where the candle was?
Again, I couldn't even tell you where the dining room was.
Right. And you couldn't tell me where the laundry room was either.
Correct.
That's all, Judge.
All right, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down.
Thanks, sir.
All right.
Just no, we approach this case.
All right. Off getting behind, but the attorneys have said that the next witness is going to be lengthy, and they don't want to start for 30 minutes and then break for the evening and then start back in the morning. So we're going to recess today. Y'all report back in the morning at, I want y'all here at 8:45 in the jury room. So that means y'all need to get here before that downstairs. There'll be someone, like I said, at your parking spaces. Does anyone know where are they under the deck? Does anyone have any idea?
All right, everyone. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to queue up day 2. They really don't go over a whole lot out of day 1 from here on out. So we're just going to go to day 2 and we're going to start up day 2. So give me just a moment to pull up the playlist. So what is everybody's opinion so far? How do you guys feel about Melody Walker Ferris after day 10? Trying to think of what day we were on. But yeah, what are your guys' opinions now that we're on day 10? Do you guys still feel confident that she is either guilty or not guilty? Explain why you feel that way. I would love to hear everybody's opinions on it. All right, I have day 2 queued up, and I had day 2 queued up. Why? I literally just clicked on day 2. Yeah, day 2. There we go. Alright, so we have day 2 queued up. I am going to go there. Alright. Let's start day 2, finally.
All right, my 2 jurors on the end there. Let the bailiffs get the chair for you because, I don't want you. We had an issue, I think, yesterday where one of y'all just tried to get in the camera line by reaching over and grabbing your chair. So if y'all will stay out of that. Y'all shuffled up a little bit, didn't you? All right. So y'all have, we're going to tick that box on our grand social experiment in which we see who stays in their seats or not. All right, a couple of things to discuss with y'all. I told y'all again, wear your badges and everything. If you happen to, we don't have secure elevators from the rest of the building, so there's a chance you may share an elevator with one of the lawyers. If that happens, that's okay. They want to make sure that you don't hold it against them if they cower away from you and don't say good morning, and vice versa. So I think that may have happened with one of the prosecutors. Again, that's not an issue. Just make sure that y'all don't talk about anything or, but usually the lawyers don't want y'all to hold it against them if there aren't, your normal pleasantries exchange when you bump into somebody in the hallway. Also, I've talked to Miss Baker and the court administrator about getting lunch for y'all. My plan at the moment is for us to do that maybe every other day, starting tomorrow and Friday. And y'all do lunch on your own today and Thursday. And then we can kind of chat about it on Friday and whether y'all want to eat in every day or not. My thought, if we do it on Friday, that we might maybe break a little early instead of going till 5:30. Again, that'll just depend on the witnesses, but we'll kind of see what y'all think about that as we go. All right, anything else we need to take up before we get started, Mr. Fogus?
No mistake on that.
All right, go ahead and bring in your next witness.
Police and Court Counsel, this time the state calls Lee Stewart, Lieutenant Stewart.
Juggling multiple client sites? Supercharge your productivity with AI made for agencies. Instantly create unique and compelling content. Improve existing copy. And shorten or lengthen text to fit the space. But that's just the beginning. Generate new site sections, including relevant copy, images, and suggested section layouts. Simply scan the website for missing SEO metadata.
Do you solemnly swear affirm the evidence you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir, I do.
Put your hand down, go ahead and have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. We're going to be there for a while. No, Judge,
We were talking about moving it to the hallway yesterday, but we can do that later. But just move it out of the way for now and put it up against the wall. And we'll have a bailiff move it later.
Please state your full name for the record, if you would.
Lieutenant Lee Stewart,
Where do you work?
currently employed with the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office.
And currently, what are your main duties that you do?
So currently, I'm one of the assistant division commanders in the Court Services Division. I'm assigned as a crime scene technician on the crime scene response unit, and I'm also in charge of our motor unit for the Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been policing?
Since March 23rd of 1998, so roughly 26 and a half years.
You started in 1998?
Yes, sir.
Did you come out of high school, or how'd you get involved? Where'd you go? Was it high school into law enforcement, college, or something like that?
No, sir. High school directly into the Marine Corps, and then I enlisted in the Marine Corps Reserves, and then I started law enforcement because I needed a job. So, and I've been here ever since.
What attracted you to be a law enforcement officer?
A family friend of ours who was the sheriff down in Alachua County, Florida years ago, I really looked up to, and I thought that listening to his stories that this would be a fun job to get into.
Where'd you go to police academy at?
I went to back when I went, it was just behind Kennesaw Mountain. It was in Georgia.
Was that where you drove every day, or did y'all spend the night and stay over?
No, we drove. We drove every day. The only time that we stayed anywhere was when we had to go down to the training center down in Forsyth for firearms qualifications or like EVOT for driving instructor, stuff like that. But other than that, we drove back and forth every day.
And how long was the training that you did for that?
I don't remember what it was back then. It was like 11 or 12 weeks.
And when did you do any type of specialized training in the academy, or was it just the basic training?
The academy was just basic training.
All right, were you pepper sprayed in the academy?
I think we were pepper sprayed at the sheriff's office before we actually went to the academy.
Been tased too?
I didn't get tased until probably 7-8 years ago. But
would you rather be pepper sprayed or tased?
Tased.
Okay. I'm always interested in that question with officers. When you're in the academy, you just get basic information. Once you get out, explain to the jury, if you would, what FTO is, or how do you get on-the-job training?
So with policing, how you get on-the-job training is at each division that you go to, you get assigned a training officer. So I started in the jail, so I was assigned to a detention training officer for, I don't remember how many weeks that was, but it was probably 6-8 weeks. And I went to several different ones and learned the different shifts and what happened on different shifts. And then you work that position, and then there's continuing on-the-job training that the state requires. We get so many hours a year of training. And then when I moved from patrol or the jail to patrol, then I had to go through a 12-week FTO training process. And then there's still once you get done, the state requires other training that you're required to take every year on top of it. And so there's an FTO process for everything that you go through on top of, like, there's specialized training classes you can take and whatnot, depending on how you want to gear your career.
So you started in the jail, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then from that, did you go to, is it uniform patrol? Is that what we call it?
Yeah, I spent roughly 23 months in the jail, and then about 20 and a half years on patrol before being assigned here.
In the jail, do you get used to talking with people, meeting with people, seeing people with different worldviews and cultures?
Yes.
Then when you get out on the road and you're on patrol, how is that assigned? Are you assigned to a certain area, or what do you do?
So back when I came to the road years ago, there was only 3 precincts. I think we have 6 total now. So they're doing it a little differently now. But so basically, when I came to the road, I trained at several different precincts with several different FTOs. Now they try to keep people with the same 26 and a half.
How has the county changed in those years?
The population is growing leaps and bounds from, I grew up here, so from when I was a kid to now, the population has just grown leaps and bounds from what it used to be.
How's the sheriff's office changed when it comes to the size? How many officers did you have when you began, and what do we have now?
I can give you a guess. I can't give you an accurate number, but
that'll work. Let's go.
I would say when I got hired in '98, there was probably 100 total employees, and I think now we're allotted for roughly 400 plus officers now sworn.
sheriff here is Sheriff runs a full service sheriff's office, does everything.
Yes, sir, we are.
Are there standards that the sheriff imposes on his officers?
Yes.
Is it a professional organization? In professional sense that there's always ongoing training and
Yes.
people or accountability, things like that?
Yes, absolutely.
If you would, after you get done doing patrol, at some point did you get involved in doing investigations or get a desire to do anything else?
Yeah, so I've always kind of had an interest in investigations, but I also love being in patrol. So while I was on patrol, there was a posting that came available for the crime scene unit, being on the crime scene response unit, and I applied for that position. It was an extra duty. I applied for that position, went through the interview process for it, kind of a practical, and was one of the ones that got selected. And then obviously, just being selected alone to become a crime scene tech, I want to say it's like 240 hours of thereabouts of required classes you have to take through the state to become a certified crime scene technician.
I want to talk to you a little bit about training, and then I'm going to ask you about specialized training for what I call the CSI.
Okay.
Every year, again, if you're an officer and you work for the sheriff, how many hours does the state require training, and how many hours do y'all actually get training?
So the state requires all the state requires is 20 hours, and then there's certain classes that the state requires you to take. The sheriff's office that obviously wants more hours than that.
But how many do you get a year, you think?
It depends on the year. When I was going to school working on my master's degree, part of that applied towards post-training. So that in those years, I got several hundred hours of training on top of my departmental training and stuff. So, I mean, it could be anywhere from, it ranges year to year, 50, 60 hours to 200 hours. It just varies.
And what kind of education degrees do you have now?
I hold a bachelor's degree and a master's degree.
Okay, what are those in?
The bachelor's degree is in organizational management and leadership, and the master's degree is in public administration, so basically government management.
Explain to the jurors, if you would, the difference between just an investigator like in CID that's actually a detective, if you would, and then how that is different from someone that does crime scene response or CSI, as I call it.
Okay. So on smaller cases, detectives they'll do the evidence collection and the interviews and stuff like that. On larger scale cases, especially when there's a lot of evidence collection and processing that needs to be involved, they get us involved. And basically that allows them time to focus on chasing leads, interviewing suspects, stuff of that nature, while we're there to, they tell us, hey, I want you to process this area over here, whatever, and then we go back and we do it, and we look for whatever evidence that is available to be found.
Kind of distinguish between a lead detective or just a detective or investigator in a case and crime scene. So you're not involved in kind of interviewing people and just talking to them?
No.
You're focused more on the actual physical place or evidence?
The place, the persons, crime scenes can be persons, places, things, whatever. So you're focused on the crime scene and the evidence collection aspect of it, not, interviewing suspects or talking to people outside of, like the case detective, right, stuff like that.
Oftentimes we talk about a crime scene. In our line of work, we talk about it's more than just one thing. It could be a place, it could be the victim, it could be the defendant, it could be a certain area that's
correct.
Out. And when you are, can anybody just today in the sheriff's office say, hey, I want to be a crime scene response or CSI investigator? Can they do that, or how does that work?
They can, obviously. As anything, we need to grow accordingly with this, as the county grows. But so when people become new crime scene investigators, there's a process that they have to go through. So there's 240 hours of, I think it's 240, don't quote me, but it's mid 200s of training. There's 7 classes that you're required to take, and then also there's a OJT process that you have to go through as well. That's required by the state. So
you're going to have to tell us what OJT is.
On the job training, sorry.
Gotcha.
So, for example, when I came onto the unit, I was selected for the unit before I had finished all my crime scene classes. So I was not an actual crime scene technician. But I was assigned to somebody who was a certified crime scene technician. So when I first got on the unit, I was assigned to, he's now no longer with our agency with school police, but he was a Sergeant Chris Shaw. And so anytime Chris got called out, I got called out. So basically, Chris was showing me how the processes work, showing me how to do things, showing me how to properly collect evidence as a crime scene. I got to, we call it holding the dummy end of the tape measure. I got to hold the non-smart end of the tape measure so I could learn how things would. And I'd be scribing and taking notes and that kind of stuff and learning the process. So basically training on the job. And I think the state requires actually 40 hours of on-the-job training before you can actually get your certificate, even if you've taken all your classes.
As a crime scene technician, what are the basic things in your toolbox that separates you from other people? When you get in this job and you're, as in this case, what are some of the things that you have in your toolbox that you use on a scene?
So certain classes, I mean, you mean talk about like the required classes that are taken
things that you're looking for to do.
To get the certification?
Or what I'm interested in is when you go to a scene and you're like, okay, I have to process the scene. And toolbox is metaphorical. What things do you actually start doing? And as a crime scene, what are the basic things you're doing, like taking photographs?
Okay, I got you now. Sorry. Like so the first thing that you do when you go to a scene is, as a crime scene investigator, you meet with the lead detective, right? So, and I say that because we want to know what kind of evidence we're looking for. So, if I'm going to, I don't know, am I going to process a car for, is it a stolen car? Am I going to look for a gun? Am I looking for a knife? Am I looking for a baseball bat? I need to know what I'm looking for. I can't just go at it blind. So first thing I do is I meet with the case detective and say, hey, what you got? What's going on? I'll make some general notes. And then before I do anything after that, I'll walk through the scene, sometimes by myself, sometimes with the case detective, depending on how complex the scene is, and get kind of an idea of what I'm doing. Because after that, the first thing you do is you take photographs because you want to properly document the scene.
Okay, so he's talking about the procedure that he personally does when he is going over a crime scene. He's talking about walking the scene. He is talking about the things that he personally is doing to document the scene and look for stuff, which I find very interesting because for as thorough as he wants to be in this, he also brings up a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of evidence that can't really be explained. And the prosecution doesn't get like the answers that they want from him, I don't think, because the defense was easily able to turn him into one of their witnesses.
Scene as you found it, right? And I don't want to be stepping in the middle of evidence that I should be collecting or kicking stuff out of the way that I didn't see originally. So I want to try to get a basis of what I'm looking at before I start doing anything. And then sometimes before I take pictures, let's say that I look up and it's going to rain and there's evidence like outside that could deteriorate based off weather, like blood or DNA or whatever. I might kind of go out of sequence and grab that first and put it away so that I can protect the evidence accordingly. But typically the first thing you do is photograph, and then once you photograph, then you start collecting your evidence. It depends on circumstances of what you collect first, whether it's your biological evidence or other things. Because you have to have a kind of a process where you systematically go through the house or the outside or wherever you're going, because otherwise stuff gets missed.
How many at the time, so turn your attention back to the case in July 2018, how many officers, whether it's certified, have arrest powers, or people that just work in CSI, how many did we have in the sheriff's office at that time that were kind of involved in this case?
I mean, I couldn't even give you an answer. I mean, I would say most of our criminal investigations division was out there. I think most, if not all, of the crime scene technicians were out there.
Was this a all hands on deck call at some point?
Pretty much.
I remember talking to you about this case. You remember how tired you were in this, working that scene?
It was a long time we were out there.
Tell the jury about how many hours y'all were putting in, what y'all were doing.
So for me, I know that I'd worked the day of on patrol, because when I was on patrol, I was also a crime scene technician as well. So I was carrying double duty. And as soon as I was called by our Chris Shaw, and he said, hey, I'm going to need you when you get done with work. So when I got done with work, I changed clothes, because this is not something that you want to, walk around a crime scene, and it's not easy to move around. Went out there and I helped. We worked most of the night collecting evidence, taking pictures, and then obviously there comes a point where you've got to take a break. So we took a break. We went home for several hours, and then
All right, so he does mention how they were out there for several hours before they took a break, collecting evidence and taking pictures and stuff like that. Now, what I find funny is how they were out there for several hours collecting evidence and taking pictures, but they missed a lot of the key evidence, like pristine blood spots in the kitchen and going up and down the stairs and things like that. Like, why wouldn't you take that stuff first? Why wouldn't you take samples from the excellent blood samples? Why would you only do presumptive testing? Like, to me, it seemed like the biological evidence really needed to have been gone over with a much finer tooth comb than what they did.
the scene was held, and then we came back the following day and continued on. So we were out there a long time. I can't give you an exact number of hours, but we were out there.
That's fair.
Quite a while.
You said the scene was contained. Talk to the jury about when law enforcement first comes to a scene. At some point when they realize they're investigating, do they do anything to maintain the scene or secure it?
Yeah. So depends on the scene. So if the scene is per se in this room and I can see everything and there's nothing real big, we may not crime scene tape it off, right? But we're going to have somebody in the room with a crime scene log. So at that point, once we realize it's become a crime scene, everybody that comes in and out of that scene is logged on a log. So, like if, say that I'm in charge of the crime scene log, I would be like, Lee Stewart in 7 o'clock, reason in, crime scene processing, out at 3 o'clock, back in at 2 o'clock, out at whatever. So that keeps a registered log of who's in and out of the scene. Also, technology-wise, we do have a CAD system through the sheriff's office that, like, for instance, if I call out on a scene, it logs me in the computer. So it says that I was out there at X time, or I was out there at Y time. I left at Y time. But the crime scene log is really your most accurate representation of when people are in and out.
So, Lieutenant, are you a country boy or a city boy?
I'm from the country.
All right. Know things about tractors and farm work and stuff like that?
Yes, sir.
Do you use your common sense and things like that in your job too?
I try to.
And when you buy this farm, 2511 Purcell Lane, how would you describe it in your own terms? What kind of property is it? What's it like?
I mean, it was an extremely nice home and small farm. It was a nice. I mean, obviously it was set up for equestrian stuff because there was a barn, there was chicken houses, and it was just a small kind of do-it-yourself type farm.
Kind of a blue-collar farm or more of a hobby farm?
I guess that.
A little combination?
A little combination of both, probably.
When you were at the scene and you arrived, I guess Chris Shaw, was he the lead CSI person?
I would assume. So,
and you had other people, Melanie Thrasher, William Ballard.
Yeah, we were all out there.
Tell the jury when you got there, was there delegation of duties or assignments or tasks for your response team?
Yeah, so typically, on a scene like we're talking about right now, it can be large because you don't know what you're looking for. So basically, it's a lot for one person. So it might be you go over here, you go over here, you go over here, you go over here. This is the kind of stuff I want you to do. This is the kind of stuff I want you to do. Because if not, one person can get overwhelmed. So it's easy if you break it up into individual. It's like anything, you break it up into individual duties, and it makes it everybody's more mission focused instead of all over the place. If that makes sense.
When you arrived, so I'm going to turn your attention now to July 5th, 2018. Okay. It was a Thursday. Do you remember about what time you got there?
I don't. I mean, I know it was after I got off work, so typically on a patrol, our shifts were, 5:30 to 6, so sometime in the afternoon.
And when you arrived, just about how many people do you remember seeing there when it comes to emergency personnel or law enforcement? The number I was not going to give you is going to be accurate, but I would say there was at least 20, 25 people there at a minimum. And when you came to the property, where did you go to first? What were you doing?
I don't remember exactly where I met, but I remember I went up and I met with the other crime scene personnel on scene and was directed to. I was given my initial task of what they wanted me to help with.
If I have your time down, y'all use military time. Make sure that's right. 17:12.
5:12. Yeah.
Is that about an accurate time? You think around that time you got there?
Probably, yes.
So when you get there, what is the first thing that you are tasked with doing?
So the first kind of thing that I was tasked with doing was processing a Kubota tractor that was parked over next to the barn.
And we're going to get into the pictures, things like that. But just to cut to the chase, did you get any samples for blood from the tractor?
I did, sir.
Now this is a tractor, and there's an RTV there too. Is that right?
Yes, sir. There was.
But we're talking about the Kubota tractor.
It's a mid-sized farm tractor, no cab.
This is truly my favorite part of the whole trial, is the fact that the prosecution is trying to claim that Melody could have moved Gary Ferris's body with this Kubota tractor. Now, yes, the tractor is big enough, but Gary was shot. He would be bleeding. There would be more blood than a single drop found on the step getting into the tractor. Please, somebody tell me that you see this too. How do you feel about it? Would you believe truly that whoever it was would have committed this crime and been able to stop Gary from bleeding everywhere and didn't leave any of his DNA behind whatsoever while loading his body onto and off of this tractor? Am I the only one that thinks that this is suspicious? Am I the only one that believes that this is one of those pieces of evidence that they just want you to ignore?
With a loader on it.
What kind of tractor you have?
I've got two. I've got a New Holland 6635 and an LS MT122.
Now, Kubota tractors, those are they nice tractors?
They are.
Are they easy to drive, this type of tractor?
I mean, I think they are, but.
So what size of a tractor is it compared to a regular tractor on a farm?
I don't remember the exact size of, like the horsepower and all that stuff of the tractor. I would have to look at a picture to tell you, but it was an adequate tractor for, in my opinion, for what they were doing.
And on the tractor, so I want to make sure we get this. If you were stepping up, if you're sitting on if I was driving the tractor, sitting in the driver's seat.
Correct.
So this is left side, right side from where I'm sitting in the
Correct.
Driver's seat. So on the left side, there's a footstep. Did you take some swabbings from blood there?
I did, sir.
And did you follow your procedure in how you did all that swabbings?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you properly seal it, bag it, package it, send it to the sheriff's office, and then it was sent off to the GBI?
Correct.
And was that the blood that came back on the foot there, on that step?
You talking about the one that was tested that returned? Yes.
Yes. Did you check for any other type of evidence on the tractor?
Yes, so I also took touch DNA. I did 9 touch DNA swabs in various locations around the controls of the tractor. So the steering wheel, the examples of the steering wheel, the shifter, the lever that controls the loader on the tractor, stuff like that. I took where people would commonly touch. I took touch DNA swabs.
Blood on the step of the tractor.
Yes, sir.
And then I think, did you help? You were working at times, helping, assisting, watching, being present when the other crime scene technicians did things.
Yes, sir.
Lieutenant Ballard, who was that?
So Lieutenant Ballard, he is actually the lieutenant over the crime scene unit. So he's assigned to CID as a department head. So under CID, there's several department heads. So prime example, and I may get the names wrong, but we have white collar, we have general crimes, we have major crimes, that stuff. So what they do is they have them broken down into sections, and there's a lieutenant over each section. So he's the lieutenant over. I'm not sure what he does. He's over the crime scene unit and another section. So we're also a duty he has.
Very good guy, very smart guy. You like
Yes,
working with him?
I do.
He may not testify because y'all were other people were with him at the time, but
Correct.
Is he over the crime scene?
He is, sir.
Yeah, very, very good guy. Like working with him. Now, when he was spraying the Kubota, the RTV, he was using something called Blue Star. What is Blue Star?
So Blue Star is a chemical that's designed to enhance specimens of blood or where we think blood may be. And when you spray it on, like you would any kind of household chemical or cleaner or whatever, it's out of a spray bottle. You spray it on, and when you spray it on, it fluoresces.
So it's a technique you use, a chemical you use to see if there's blood present.
Yes.
Now, when Blue Star, can it interact or react to other things besides blood?
Yeah, so Blue Star is designed to react to blood of a mammal, humans, other mammals. And also it's designed, it will react to, because what it's reacting to is the iron in the blood. And it will also react to iron as well. But if it's just straight iron and not blood, it will show differently, basically.
So mammalian blood.
Yes.
And mammal blood.
So if it's just a sample of iron, it'll flash real quick and go away. Typically, if it's a sample of blood, it'll flash and stay for a period of time and slowly. I guess the illumination will slowly go away.
So let me go back to that. So if you spray it and it's not blood, it pops?
It'll pop real quick and go away.
Okay, but if it is blood, mammalian blood, mammal blood.
Correct. It'll stay, and it won't stay forever. You've got to, you basically have to be set up ready to photo it when you do it, but you got 30, 45 seconds for it to kind of stay up, and it kind of just slowly the light, the fluorescence will slowly dissipate.
And when you were with Lieutenant Ballard and y'all were processing the RTV, it too is a Kubota?
Yes, it's a Kubota RTV, which is it's a side-by-side, like a Polaris Ranger or a Kawasaki Mule or whatever. It's a side-by-side used by construction workers, people working on farms, stuff like that.
The lever for the hydraulic dump bed in the dash area, when it was Blue Star, did it fluoresce?
It did.
When you went over the tractor, the dash area, did it also fluoresce?
Give me just a second. Let me look back at my report for a minute.
If you or a loved one ever listen up. New research suggests an increased risk of brain tumors in women who use the Depo-Provera shots. Women affected may be entitled to significant compensation.
I don't remember. I haven't. In my report it says that the step did, but I don't remember the dash. I'd have to look at photos.
It's all right. So the lever for the hydraulic dump, the bed, and the step did indicate presence of blood.
Correct.
Now, at some point, you're processing the house. Did you go into the actual inside of the house at all and help out?
Yes.
And I think there were some things you were looking. What things there did you notice?
At what point?
Well, let me go back to so I think you were there on the 5th, and y'all, it was when you processed the tractor and the RTV, is that right?
The tractor and the RTV and I took photographs of the barn and whatnot.
Right, lots of photographs, we're going to see those.
Okay.
And then, did you come back on July 6th, which is Friday, the next day?
Yes, sir, I did.
And I think you probably went to the house in the basement at some point?
I did.
What did you notice down there?
So I went in there and assisted Sergeant Carter while we collected and helped him collect some evidence. We collected samples of hair that was on a wall. We collected various other things, and then I was tasked to process several garbage cans that were in the downstairs office in the house.
When you processed the garbage can, I believe it's the trash can out of Gary's office in the basement, do you remember what was anything in particular that was in there broken?
Yes, so you may tell you everything that was in the can or just what?
Okay, so if you notice, he talks about things that luminesced, but he's not asking what the results of those samples really were. And same thing with like the stuff that he finds in his testing, such as the garbage can and things like that. Why are we not asking what were the results of those fingerprints? What were the results of the DNA swabs? What were the results of, the saliva or the footprints or the whatever else? Why are we only asking, did this luminesce? Was this a presumptive positive test for this? Why are we not asking more in-depth questions? Like, I just feel like the things that they truly can't get an explanation for, they just get the answer that they know what the answer will be, or they ask the question for what they know the answer will be, and nothing further. And I know that there's the saying, don't ask questions that you don't know the answer to, but I feel like in this case, they should know what the answer to, like, whose blood is it? So why aren't we asking these questions?
Just the broken items that were in there.
Go ahead.
So in the can there was cigarette packs, food, leftover food, papers. There was also a broken plate that was in there. It was all taken. And when we process stuff like that, we take it. I had to take it out and lay it out because I had to photograph it all. So I took it out, placed out a tarp to keep it to where I could lay it all out and take a picture and photograph the whole thing.
Sometimes when I go to a crime scene, I stick my hands in my pocket and just kind of let the scene talk to me. What's there and what does that mean? Do you look for evidence to see where you can take an inference and say, okay, I see this evidence, this probably means this? You ever do that?
I mean, sometimes, but what we typically do is we give information we find to the detectives because they're the ones that have been talking to people. We say this is possible, this may not be possible, this is the evidence we found, and then they basically put it together with their statements and people that they've interviewed and whatnot like that.
Yeah, Gary Ferris was dead on the day that you went out there and processed that, but in his trash can, was there any indication whether or not he liked Mountain Dew?
Yes, there was a plethora of Mountain Dew cans.
Lots of them?
Yes.
Did you also help process?
Now, here is another little tidbit that I find interesting. There were cigarette butts found out at the burn pile, but they don't ever really specifically say who all within the home smoked and how many of those people within the home were smokers. So I find it really odd that that is one of the things that they like make sure that they talk about is the cigarettes that were found out at the burn pile, but they don't really clarify for sure if it was Melody's cigarettes, if it was Chris's cigarettes, if it was Scott's cigarettes, if it was Gary's cigarettes, if any of the other children smoked that happened to come visit. Like, so this is another one of those pieces of evidence that they want to present, but they don't really want to explain what relevance it actually has to this case. It's really weird. It's really, really weird that they have so many unanswered questions and we're still allowed to proceed to taking this to trial.
Says some, I guess, a C or some shoes and a shirt.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about that.
At one point, we were kind of combing through the master bed. I would assume the master bedroom in the house, or in a study. And in the closet in that bedroom, there was a red color shirt that had several stains on it, which was photographed. And then there was also several pairs of shoes that had, I think one was a teal colored pair of shoes, and the other one was multicolored pair of shoes. They were in the same closet, and one of them, both of them had stains on them, which were tested, and obviously I photographed the shoes.
Did you find anything that was consistent with soot or ash or anything like that?
So on the red shirt that I photographed, I noticed a black stain. I believe it was on the back, down around the bottom, and it had the appearance of ash or soot.
And then someone else was processed that?
I'm assuming, yes.
And the garbage can, did you think there was possible blood on that, or did you just
I did.
try to take some samples?
So that on one of the garbage cans downstairs, I noticed two reddish brown stains, and at the time, based on the scene, I assumed that they may be blood based off the color. So I did collect them so that they could be tested to see if they were in fact blood.
The parts that stipulate to the GBI reports, those are going to come in, but do you even know what the results are on some of those?
Not on all of them, no.
And it is what it is, and we'll bring those in. We've stipulated to those, but everything that you process, the tractor, the RTV, helping with that, the cans, the garbage cans, the swabbings from those and everything else, did you properly follow your procedures to bag those, maintain those, and make sure that they got to the GBI properly for testing?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you ever go over to the barn and check out the barn and see if you find any evidence over there?
So I believe it was the second day. Let me just verify.
I know, say the 6th, if that's right.
The 6th, yeah. When I went back out there, I was asked to do a walkthrough of the barn with the detective. So basically, I walked through with one of the detectives, and I had my camera on my neck, and basically we were checking each other. So we walked through. Does he see something else? Based off of how the investigation is moving. Now I need this as evidence. Now I need this as evidence. Now I need this as evidence. So then we start taking more photographs and start documenting more things. And if we need to collect something else, we collect it.
At that point, what did you know about a gun being involved, or what was your mindset, your present sense of present at that time of what was going on with involving a gun?
I knew we were potentially looking for a smaller caliber handgun of some kind.
When did you know about the bullet in the rib?
When?
Mm-hmm. Do you remember?
I want to say it was I can't remember. I know it was either late the first night or early the next morning, but I think it was the first night.
When you arrived, was the bullet found yet in the ribs, or was that after?
I can't recall an exact timeline.
But is it fair to say most of your investigation, while you're processing the scene, you were investigating a murder?
Yes.
Or investigating a crime, I guess I should say.
Yes.
I didn't know if you, when you first arrived, if you thought it was an accident, someone had a heart attack, or were you actually, it was an investigation?
I mean, in a situation like this, you know, obviously you assume the worst and hope for the best.
Sure. And you've worked with law enforcement officers a long time.
Yes,
Gallows humor sometimes. They can work things off, or they're cynical at times.
correct.
Do y'all begin with, oftentimes there's a theory, or maybe there's a crime and you work it until it stops? In other words, there's no more evidence.
I mean, I would say that's fair and accurate.
And in this case, when you were doing your task in that, were you just focused on what you were assigned to do and try to find any type of evidence?
So I hope this answers your question. So, like, prime example, when I was tasked to do the tractor, I was looking for any evidence I could find on the tractor, whether it be blood or any other substance that would indicate any sort of a, you know, criminal offense or other explanation. So does that help? So sure. I mean, so basically, we're kind of, so when we get there, we're kind of geared. We talk to the detective. You know, hey, what are you looking for? What do you need? And then that kind of gears us in the direction of what we're looking.
And then you independently at times can just follow the scene where it goes.
Correct.
Now, when you went into the barn, did you find a gun?
Yes, we found a 32 caliber. I think it was a 32 caliber firearm, revolver.
Now, does Cherokee County have many murders per year? Do y'all respond to a lot of murders? Or not really.
Not really. I mean,
So,
comparative to other surrounding, you know, more metro jurisdictions, no.
So not a lot of major violent
No.
crimes. Had you worked a case like this in a burning or something? Was this the first time?
This was the first time.
And would you, for most of the other officers, the same thing was true too?
I mean, I would assume. I mean, I don't know the other crime scene technicians' training and experience, but I would assume it was, you know.
So when you're working a case and there's a bullet in someone's ribs that's been burned, why are you interested in finding a gun?
Because at that point, I believe a reasonable and prudent person would believe that there was some kind of foul play.
And when you found this gun, what did you notice about the gun? First of all, where was it at? What type of gun was it, and what did you notice about it?
It was a 32 caliber revolver. It appeared to be old. I believe it was in a cabinet in the barn, kind of off the tack, like a tack room, I believe. And obviously, the first thing, you know, one of the first things we do is we photograph it, and then obviously we inspect it to see if there's any rounds that have been fired or anything in it. And that's easy with the revolver recently because you can open the cylinder and look, and you can look at the primers on all of them. And none of the primers in that weapon that were loaded in the weapon had been fired. So it was photographed and left in place.
So it did not appear to be recently fired?
No.
How about the ammunition? Was the ammunition accounted for?
I remember taking pictures of lots of different ammunition for different caliber firearms.
But didn't see anything out of ordinary?
No.
No blood, no dirty, no moved, or anything that looks like it was recently used in any way?
Didn't appear to be to me, no.
All right, tell the jury, if you would, are you a gun guy?
I am.
Like guns?
I'm not an expert, but I like guns. I like to shoot.
You have more common knowledge. You think somebody doesn't use guns?
Probably.
I'm not going to ask you how many guns you own because I wouldn't want you to ask me how many I own. But what is the difference between, say, a 32 and a 38 and a 357?
Size.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Size, speed, weight of the cartridge.
All right, for people that don't know, let me just start on this side, going from small to large. 22.
Mm-hmm.
Then you step over a 32 bullet. Then a 38.
Yep.
357.
Correct.
All right. Can those be shot in a revolver?
Yes.
And they're usually in revolvers?
Yes.
What's a 380 and a 9 though?
Typically, 380s and 9mm are
the short
they're semi-automatic. They're not revolvers. They hold magazines with 7, 8, or 7, 10, 15 rounds typically.
And cowboy gun is kind of what the revolver is. Has that cylinder.
Yeah, GoDaddy Arrow is so easy. AI built me a website in minutes. No hassle, no passive-aggressive opinions, no...
Correct.
And don't get upset when I say this, but oftentimes people say with a semi-automatic, it has a clip in it. I know it's a magazine, not supposed to have a clip, but that's where you put the magazine and charge it, rack it.
Correct.
And a 32 is the most commonly used in a revolver.
As far as I know, but there could be something else out there, but as far as I know, it's typically a revolver.
Okay. How about a 38 special? Can it be shot out like a 357 or a 44 or something like that?
Yes.
So it's small enough to go through the bigger barrel.
So I have a 357.
What brand you got?
Ruger SP 101. So a lot of times if I'm just target practicing, I'll shoot 38 ball ammo out of it because you can't go the other way, but because it's cheaper and it has less recoil and it's just fun to shoot. Now, you can't put a 357 in a 38; it won't work. But you can go backwards.
Okay, so you can go up, you just can't go down.
Right.
You know how many pictures you took?
I have no idea.
Have you had an opportunity to meet with me probably too many times and look at your photographs?
Yeah, we've looked through quite a few photographs.
All right, I'm going to State's Exhibit Stewart 1 through 131. I'm going to enter those into evidence at this time.
Okay.
If you ever need to get some water or anything, make yourself comfortable.
Oh, good, sir.
We'll do it a couple ways, but these are so they can go out with the jury. These are States Stewart 1 to 131. I'll bring them up on the computer too.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge. Thanks, Shane.
Screen looked like I had it on because I can see it.
Yours was.
Yeah,
just
sorry.
While this is loading up, Lieutenant.
It's up now, sir.
Oh, there it is. Purcell Lane. What county is this in?
Cherokee County, sir.
And is it a nice area of the county?
It is.
Is it beautiful?
It is.
All right, this is Stewart 1. We're going to walk through. What I want to do is, obviously the jury's not there at the time that the processing is taking place. I'm going to ask them a question, but I really want you to kind of think through the eyes of a juror. And you've seen it, you know it, but some things may not be in their mind as it is in yours. As we come into this, and we know that you come up the driveway and you turn right to go to the barn, is that right?
Correct.
And tell us what we're seeing here in Stewart 1. Now, I probably would just refer to it as 1 or 2 or 3, but we're talking about the Stewart exhibit.
Okay.
So in States 1 here, what do we see?
So what you see off to the left is the barn. Well, it's got 2 sliding barn doors on the front. And then just off to the right of that, you see basically 2 sheds where obviously various equipment. I mean, you can keep various equipment. And then
when you're looking at this, the barn on the left, and where was Scott's apartment be, the son's apartment?
Above the barn, so the second story, second floor.
Kind of describe the apartment, the loft over the barn. What would it be like?
I mean, it's just a standard apartment, bedroom, bathroom, living room area, kitchen.
Kind of more equivalent to a hunting cabin, or more equivalent to like a fancy apartment down in Atlanta?
I would say more equivalent to maybe a man room, hunting cabin, something like that.
Like a bachelor was living there,
yeah.
Who's a hunter or something like that?
Correct.
What do we see in one here straight ahead? What are those things?
Talking about what the trailer's parked in front of?
Mm-hmm. This is now 2. What do we have here?
Those are basically, I mean, I consider them storage sheds. So like you can back trailers under them, you could park equipment under them, trucks under them, whatever. They've got various tools in them, basically used for storage.
I'm never good at this. My wife has to correct me all the time. Is that a lean-to or is it pole barn, or what would you call that?
I mean, I call it a pole barn.
Okay.
But
And states 3, what do we have here?
So it's the one on the left, I believe. Basically various tools in there: lawnmowers, shovels, tillers, various household, outside working tools.
4, moving to the left of that view, that same shed.
Okay.
What do we have here?
Just the other side, you have a tiller, a trailer, gas cans, a small pull behind looks like fertilizer spreader, a push mower, sprinklers, just various lawn equipment.
All right, stage 5, what do we see on this wall?
On the wall, you have basically what you call, I would call it a sickle on the end. You've got a shelf, you've got rakes, shovels, chain.
Tools. Stage 6, looking at the front of this, just other things in that shed, is that right?
Yeah, so you got a shelf full of buckets and gas cans, and then to the left of that, it looks like you got a climbing ladder stand for like a hunter.
Just going around. Do you try to just capture the scene as it is, not knowing whether or not it's relevant at the time?
Correct. So when you take photographs, the first thing you do is you take overall photographs. So basically, if you had to go back and overlay something on top of it, you could completely recreate the scene. And then once you find out what your evidence is, you go back and you take the other photographs, mid-range close-ups, stuff like that.
Stewart 8 here, the right side of the right sheds here.
Yes.
Is there anything in those, or are they I guess the right one's empty, is that right?
I believe the right one's empty, yeah. Well, except for, looks like a planter.
Number 9, and when you look at this, it looks like a planter and some things have been strapped to the top.
Yeah, it's probably where, my guess is where they put the seed, to hold the seed. It looks like a planter.
I don't know if you call those toe straps, or what do you call those straps? Come along straps?
Ratchet straps is what I call them. But
you use those at your farm?
I don't know if that's the technical term, but that's what I call them.
Stewart 10, just empty, right side of the shed here, is that right?
Yes.
All right. Stewart 11. Tell the jury what we see in this photograph and kind of where it's at in relation to everything else on the property.
So this is behind. So what I see here is obviously you're looking kind of at the side of the right shed. Looking down, there's obviously another lean-to or pole barn or whatever you want to call it off to the back, but there's various other equipment. And then like wheelbarrows, storage ladders, and then down behind that, parked next to a mulch pile is the Kubota tractor that I mentioned processing earlier.
And this Kubota, what does it have on the front and what does it have on the back?
So on the front, it's got a loader, which is commonly used in farm stuff. Then on the back, we'll have to get closer, but there's a farm. There's an implement on the back, like a small set of harrows or a drag plow or something like that. But
Stewart 12 just showing a view looking at, I guess, the front of the tractor. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. Now that we have had better views of this Kubota tractor, you would expect to see some copious amounts of blood. And we have seen it from a slightly closer up view. We have seen it where you can get a really good view of it from the front here. And then the last view was a really good view from the side. You can kind of see into the loading bucket and things like that. So to me, it just seems really weird that if this tractor was actually used, that there wouldn't be more blood and it wouldn't be more noticeable. But that's just my opinion. I feel that, if this tractor was used in the commission of this crime, there would be way more evidence on it than there has been, or at least than has been admitted to.
Now, describe for the jury what is to the left of the tractor, and is there anything in it, or is it empty?
The left?
You know, this is the whole lean-to issue with me. You see that, that
okay.
roof that comes over?
I'm looking at it from being on the tractor. So
Okay, all right. So as you're looking at this photograph,
Right.
tractor's to your right?
Correct.
To the left, that little shed area, is there, what's in there?
Looks like on the left, it kind of looks like a wood chipper. We got some various piping hanging on the wall, a wheelbarrow, and then looks like a plastic storage, like a storage container to store liquid. Or
Did you learn where the tractor was normally parked, whether it's normally parked under there or out like this?
I don't recall where it was normally parked. I mean, I know me personally, I keep my stuff under the barn because I want to take care of it, but I mean, I don't know. Some people keep stuff outside.
Stuart 13, we're looking at the right side of the tractor.
Correct.
Want to kind of focus in on those tires. Did you notice anything about the tractor's condition, whether it's clean, not clean, or otherwise?
I mean, it looks relatively well taken care of. I mean, cleanish. It's got some dirt on it. Got some dirt on the tires.
Stuart 14, going back looking at that, what I call a rake, or what would you call the implement on the back of the tractor?
A rake of some sort. I don't know what the technical term is. Some sort of harrow rake, something like that.
And what is that usually used for?
That in particular, I'm not real sure. I would be assuming it's for moving ground.
All right, Stuart's 15 on the back side. Who's that gentleman standing there to the right? Do you know?
That looks like Detective Kuykendall.
And he's not crime scene. He's just a
detective. He's a sergeant in our criminal investigations division.
So this is a back view of the tractor. Has that what I call a rake on the back.
Now, I really would love it if somebody would explain to me what that is actually used for. Does it go farther into the ground? Or does it just kind of rake across the top like a normal rake would? I'm really curious to know. I've never personally used one. The tractor that we had for where I grew up, was more like the little John Deere riding mower that was in the one pole shed. So I would really like to know, I would love to hear how that farm equipment actually works. It would be so helpful. Because, I mean, I feel like if she was using that to cover her tracks, then to some extent, like if it goes into the ground, I feel like you would have noticeable tracks to and from the burn pile. But if it's just meant to rake, then I still feel like in the dirt or something, it would leave somewhat noticeable tracks as well, from just the rake moving the dirt from the ground. But I could be wrong. I'm going to go until their next break, and then we will cut it off for today, and we will do more tomorrow. And tomorrow I will probably hop on while the kids are not needing a whole lot of attention. And this week I'm going to take off on Sunday because I'm going to be helping a friend move.
Left side, just seeing the tractor's position on Stuart 16.
Yes.
Stuart 17, kind of a another going around it? You just try to walk around, is that what you're doing?
Correct, so I'm doing overalls, so I'm taking pictures of the overall piece of equipment going around.
And Stewart 18 is coming to the scoop or the bucket, or
Yes.
what'd you call it?
The bucket.
19, a little closer on the back. All right, 20, I want to go around I think we got pictures of the tires, beginning on the right side. The right back, what do you notice about this tire?
As far as, I mean, there's dirt on the outside of the tire. It's
Stewart 21, as we go into the front. Stewart 22, what do you notice about the front right tire?
I mean, there's dirt caked in the tread of the tire on the front where it's stopped.
Stewart 23, front bucket.
Okay, and this is exactly what I was talking about, guys. I feel like if Gary's body was moved in this bucket, there should be blood. Any amount of blood. And they have found absolutely nothing. There isn't even small little bits of blood in here. Like, please, can somebody make it make sense? Can somebody explain to me how a body could have been shot and moved to a burn pile with a tractor and not leave any evidence whatsoever? Not a single drop of biological evidence. Can we please explain that?
If I said that bucket's about 5 feet in length, would you disagree with that?
I mean, I'd probably say close. I mean, I don't know the exact dimensions of the bucket, but I mean, I'd probably say that's close.
All right, 26, that's the front right.
Yeah, yes.
And I'm gonna
Okay, here's another thing. They say that the bucket is only 5 feet tall. I'm only 5 feet tall. How do you expect to get a 6-foot plus tall person in that bucket while they are dead and get them to stay? Like, I feel like somebody who is 5'5" would struggle to even get the body in the bucket to begin with, let alone somebody who is like at least a foot taller than the bucket is long. And while the bucket is fairly wide, I don't know if it's wide enough to really hold a man who his own children admit he was between like 280 and 300 pounds. So, can somebody make it make sense? And do you really believe that she would have been struggling with this body, getting it to the burn pile if it's like falling out and stuff? I mean, I feel like it would be noticeable. And again, her granddaughter Addison had been spending the night from the 4th into the 5th, along with Cameron. So there were people there. I need this to make sense. I feel like Addison and Cameron would have heard gunshots if that's what happened. And I don't know.
We'll back up just a little bit. You see on Stewart 22, you see that white round part on the tractor.
You talking about the oil filter?
Yeah, the filter. So Stewart 26, you're talking about the front right.
Yes.
Stewart 27, what is this picture of?
It's the front right tire.
The mud on the tire?
Yes.
Stewart 28, back picture of the right front tire. Is that right?
I think so. I can't really tell.
And then Stewart 29, the back right.
Yes.
Stewart 29, the back right. Stewart 30, excuse me. All right, now, on the left side, the writing's on the other side. Let me go back so you know this. So you see in Stewart 20, you see that HST is on the right there. Now we're on the left side. So left back tire, describe that for us.
It's got some earth, looks like earth debris on the, or dirt, leaves, whatever on the top.
32, just another picture of it.
Close-up picture.
33, this is the left step.
Correct.
Now, Stewart 34, what are we focusing on here, kind of towards the top of this step?
So about, I don't know, 2/3 of the way across, the very top of the step, there's several small reddish brown stains, and that's a close-up photo of it.
Is that seen here in Stewart 35?
Yes.
Do you have training in detecting blood or seeing blood?
Yes.
What kind of training do you have in that?
So, I mean,
Okay. So they're talking about the blood that's on the tractor. And I don't know if this is the blood that they found on the step. I didn't quite see what area they had taken that from. But there's also whatever this substance is on the tire, near the tire. And I did see that. And there is a much bigger space of whatever this substance that they're trying to call blood is. It was on the back right side tire. And that could be part of what they're talking about. But when they later bring on an expert, they specifically say in today's testimony that only a small speck of actual blood was found on the step of the tractor going into the tractor. So I just find that to be an interesting find in this, and an interesting bit of evidence that they're bringing in. And they're going to go through his credentials with finding evidence. I apologize, the kids are messing around. They're going to go into his credentials with finding evidence and how he's been trained to find blood and process blood and all of that. But I still feel like there was an inadequate amount of forensic collections. Because if they really believed that that was blood, why didn't you do something more than just like presumptive testing?
I mean, in my career, I've seen lots of human blood over the course of 26 years of working the road, being on wrecks, answering calls. But we also, as a crime scene technician, there's a 40-hour class you have to take. It's called blood stain pattern analysis. So it helps you learn how to identify different stains, stuff like that.
And what do you learn in those classes? Tell us just basically what, when it comes to blood splatter or blood patterns or things like that.
So you learn how to determine, like in certain things, like certain instance, area of impact, area of origin. So like it doesn't really apply in this case, but because obviously we don't have anything else than just one piece of evidence. But so if you have, a blood spatter on the wall and it's here, and somebody says I was standing up and I was hitting the head with something, you basically can say, well, I don't think that's the case because the area of origin would be down here. So you learn how to pull measurements and strings and whatnot to kind of determine. You learn directionality of blood drops. So you learn, basically that 90-degree droplets around. You learn various patterns of blood. There's all kind of patterns of blood, white patterns, saturation patterns. Basically, it's just I guess the scientific way to describe what kind of pattern it is. So, for example, if it's a white pattern, I'm sure everybody's seen where somebody's tried to clean something up and they wipe it in a circle. You can tell obviously that that's what they call a white pattern. It means it looks like it's been tried to be wiped up. Or you have a swipe pattern, which means, like, if I'm bleeding from the hand and I walk by this wall and I brush it, obviously that's two different looks. That's what they would call a swipe pattern. Basically, I swipe something across it. I swipe the object across it. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. So if I was shot in the arm and held my arm out and blood would drop 9 degrees down vertical, what would it look like?
It would be completely round.
Okay. And can blood be transferred from one place to another?
Yes.
From one substance or thing to another?
Correct.
When you look at this, can you tell if this has any indication of any of those things you talk about?
It could be any number of things. It could be a transfer stain. It could be...
it could be a drop.
It could be a drop because you have one looks like 90 degree on the right, but that could have come off something as well.
But could have been transferred
too? Could have been transfer. There's no way I could definitively give you the answer.
Stuart, 36?
Yes.
Just a closer of that?
It's another close-up. It's done with a ABFO scale. That we use those in close-up photographs so that people can get a size reference on how the size of something. So if we have to, go back and recreate something later, if something has to be recreated later, you can get approximate size.
And technically, I think this was going to be GBI out of 1919B, and it's the swab 2 sample that you took. So this is the sample of the blood from the tractor that you took and was turned into the GBI.
Yes, sir.
And how many, when you take swabs, we're stipulating to this, so it doesn't really matter, but when you take a swab, how many swabs are you doing?
So it depends. So on something like this, I took, because I have one sample, I do 2. So when you collect this sample, it was dry. So if it's wet, you don't have to do anything. You can just swab it up. If it's dry, you have to use some sort of substance to be able to lift it. So we use sterile water, denatured water, whatever you want to call it. So the first thing that we do is we're going to use 2 swabs. The first one, we put the water comes in little vials, if that helps you guys out to kind of picture it. So you drop the water on top of the first swab. It looks like a big Q-tip basically, and you put that in. You package that so that way they can go back and you can go back and show later that the water was not contaminated. The water wasn't. There was nothing wrong with it. It was sterile. It came from a sterile environment. And then you go back and you wet the second Q-tip because the moisture in the water is just what's going to basically reconstitute enough of it to where it's not going to turn into a liquid again, but it'll reconstitute it enough to get it to lift with that, and then that got packaged as well.
And as you did in this case, when you package something, just describe the packaging that's put in
So,
to secure.
Any type of biological evidence, such as blood, gets packaged in paper or cardboard, and the reason that it does is because obviously, everybody's put stuff in a plastic bag and seen it turn to mold or, seen it grow things inside. Well, because this is biological evidence, it goes inside typically we use swab boxes, so they come flat like this, and you have to fold them up and make a box out of them, and they have a little tab, 2 perforated tabs that pop up. It's a long swab, it's like a longer dental type swab that slides in there. So that's the way we package them. So that way they can, because cardboard's porous, so that way it can dry, and it doesn't allow moisture to stay in there and turn things moldy or grow things or whatever.
All right, going from there, Stuart 37, just front left tire. Stuart 38, I think same thing. And then 39, do you just start walking around the backside of the barn?
Yes.
Stuart 40, Stuart 41, Stuart 42, Stuart 43. Is there an area at Stuart 43, an opening where you could drive a tractor into that overhang?
Correct. I mean, I would have to make sure it was tall enough, but I would assume that's what it's used to park equipment.
And the rest of the pictures up to Stewart 46, kind of just showing pictures of the backside of the, I guess, the barn.
Yes, sir.
Stewart 47, were there animals on the property when y'all were out there? Do you remember?
I want to say there was horses and chickens.
All right, so we're going to start going into the barn. You took photographs of the barn?
Correct.
Stewart 48. I'm just going to kind of walk through them if that's okay. Stewart 49. Stewart 50. Stewart 51. Have a little visitor there. Do you see him?
Yeah, little lab.
Stewart 52. Stewart 53. Stewart 54. Did you see the horses on the property?
I don't recall, but I would assume I did.
Stewart 55. Stewart 56. 57. 58. 59. 60. 61. 62. 63. 64. 65, 66, 67 now kind of in the tool room.
Yes.
68, 69, 70. And did you notice that there were ropes and other things around the property?
Yeah, there was various, you see a rope hanging off the extension cords. There's ropes hanging on the wall. There was chains in one of the shed earlier. So, yeah, there's ropes and chains all over the place.
72, now up to 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78. We see some of these rifles, shotguns. Where are these?
It looks like the bottom two are rifles, and I can't tell if the top one's a shotgun or a rifle.
Just going through the rest of these. Now, 83, this is the tack room for the horses.
It's one of them. There's saddles in there. There's fishing rods, various things.
All right, let me go back. Stewart 94. What do we have a picture here? Can you see it?
I believe that's the 32 revolver we discussed earlier.
For the record, what were we looking at here in Stewart 94? Describe it in words if you could.
It was you're talking about we're in the tack room. There's a cabinet, or in one of the storage rooms. There's a cabinet. It's open. It's got various items in it, and then there's a 32 revolver, or there's a revolver laying underneath it with ammunition, boxes of ammunition beside it.
So Stewart 95 shows the gun as you found it?
Yes.
Stewart 96. What do we have here?
So that's the inside, like I previously mentioned, that's we obviously inspect the weapons when we pick them up. So we opened the cylinder and looked, and you can note that that's a 6-shot revolver, and there's the little round circles in the middle of the cartridges or the primers, and if those would have been fired, there would have been imagine taking a nail, taking a nail and hitting it on a piece of wood and then pulling it out. You'd have like a little indention in the primer, showing that it had been fired. Then obviously we would have collected the shell casing.
97, just showing the name of the gun.
Yes, it's a Winchester.
And then 98, some just pictures of the chicken coop, I guess.
Correct.
Just go through those. Now, 115, on now transition. I guess this will be on July 6th.
Looks like the garbage cans downstairs, because you can see the blue tarp that it's sitting on.
So, Stewart 115 is the garbage can. Is that just a picture of the outside?
Correct.
I guess, what's that, blue tarp under it?
Yes.
Why do you do that?
Well, because, I'm fixing to lay stuff out on it so that I can photograph it and take pictures. And I want to try to keep it obviously I'm outside, so I want to try to keep it as sterile as possible.
116. Now, you were involved in interviewing people to know anything about a dish or why the dish is there?
No, I mean, I'm assuming it's in the garbage can because it's broken. But sometimes the smallest things can be evidence, so you
Sure,
can
no,
document
I'm
everything.
not disputing that, but the point is you didn't talk to witnesses to know anything about it.
I did not.
You just found it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Stuart, 116, what do we see here?
So like I mentioned earlier, there was food in the garbage can, packs of cigarettes, and then obviously a broken plate.
117, I guess what you do is you peel the onion, you take some off, take another layer off.
Correct. So first, like if I was doing this, I would take an overall picture of the top of the garbage can, then I would take a few things out, take pictures again, so that way everything can be photographed. And you systematically lay it out across the tarp, which I'm sure you'll see that in a minute, and then you take an overall photograph from the top so you can see everything at one time that was found in there.
Y'all don't just willy-nilly get some evidence and throw it there in the back of the truck. Are y'all very careful and punctilious in how you actually go through all the evidence, step by step, piece by piece, making sure you're processing it?
Yes.
Packaging it right?
Yes.
All right, 118. What is this?
That's a picture of that's a close-up picture of the broken plate laying on the tarp.
Here's how I run a multi-six-figure social media management business as a team of one without wasting my precious time chasing invoices, onboarding clients, or...
119, still going through the...
We're back in the garbage can again.
120, what do we have here?
Photographs of the papers.
121.
Plant leaves, looks like plant leaves, there's food.
122 showing some documents and food.
Yes.
123, you're laying it out, is that right?
Correct.
124, what is the photograph 124, Stuart 124?
So it was a document that was found in the garbage can. It was referenced second quarter earnings from, looks like talking about finances.
Who is it addressed to, this document?
Equity Partners.
From Leo Howell?
Yes.
What date was it?
It was dated June 12th of 2018.
And regards, what does it say? Reference.
So it says reference second quarter earnings. Okay. For me to continue to read it, or?
Yeah, if you could, just for the record.
So it says enclosed are the following estimated earnings through the second quarter of 2018 and the summary income statement through May 31st, 2018. Second quarter live tax draw check, or if you elect a direct deposit, you can view your stub on, looks like mybird.com, but it's all wrinkled, so I can't.
Right, and then there's, says LRH and attachments?
Correct.
Stuart 125, did you find this in the garbage can?
Correct.
Let me pull it down here. Stuart 125, what's it say at the top, the best you can
So
make
it says estimated year-to-date earnings. It looks like it says cumulative by quarter.
If you could, there's 1, 2, 3, are there 4 columns on this piece of paper or this document?
Yes, sir.
And the left column, is it kind of it says something about by quarter and partner, is that right?
Correct.
And then what is listed in that column below alphabetically?
It looks, to a layperson, and to me, it looks like last names.
Okay. But it makes out a name, like that's not gibberish. It's just like
correct.
Abbott, Jones, Joseph, Kavanaugh, Keller.
Those are all common last names that I've heard, so I would make the assumption that they would be last names.
Appears to be alphabetically?
Yes.
The second column has a percentage of 2018 percentage of partnership, is that right?
Yes.
And then it has different percentages per person?
Correct.
Third column says YTD year-to-date earnings 3/31/2018 first quarter?
Yes.
And then year-to-date earnings 5/31/2018 second quarter?
Yes.
Are some of these figures in money over $100,000?
Absolutely.
Some of it over $300,000?
Let's see. Yes.
Stuart, 126, what do we have here?
That looks like a 28.
Yeah, everybody loves to get this thing, don't they? The tax
Absolutely. It's the 2018 tax statement for the 2155 Purcell Lane.
bill. Cherokee County Board of Assessors, is that
Yes.
what's labeled at the top? So
Yes.
Stuart, 126, who is it made out to?
It's made out to Gary W. Ferris and Melody W. Ferris.
So both names are on it, is that
Correct.
right? What's the address?
The address that we're here for today, 2155 Purcell Lane.
So 2155 Purcell Lane?
Yes, sir.
Official tax matter, and it says it's the annual assessment notice date, May 14, 2018,
Yes.
and then last date to file written repeal, June 28, 2018.
Yes.
So for the property, current year fair market value of the property, what is that?
Looks like $1,036,900.
So $1,036,900,
Correct.
and that was the value of it back in 2018.
Correct. I mean, according to the county, yes.
Stuart, 127. What is this document?
It's a pay statement, a paper copy of a pay statement to address to Gary Ferris.
Stuart, 127. If you look at to the right over here, what is the period start date and the period end date?
It shows it's the month of May, so May 1st, 2018 to May 31st, 2018.
Okay. What is the pay group?
Birmingham Monthly, it says.
What was the job?
Partner Equity.
It has a pay rate.
It says $159.05. Now I don't understand what that means as far as, but
Actually, let me go to Stuart. Go to Stuart 128. Stuart 120, kind of the same thing.
correct.
Just a clear copy.
Yes.
And this pay date is April.
It's from April instead of May.
Pretty much is very similar to the Stuart 127, but after, not the gross, but the net. What is the amount for that month?
It says, the total says $20,969.37.
Whose name is at the top there?
Gary W. Ferris.
All right, in the trash can, maybe another trash can looks like.
Correct, there was two.
Stuart 129, we see something poking out of the top there. I'm going to go to Stuart 130. What do we have here?
A bunch of soda cans, Mountain Dew cans, empty cartons of cigarettes.
Would you consider that evidence if you had to use common sense and inference that he liked Mountain Dew?
Correct.
And then 131. Judge, can I just have one moment?
It's probably a good time for a break.
I think I'm done, Judge, if I can. Judge, I'm done.
All right, we'll take a short break. We'll take 10 minutes longer if y'all need to wander, but y'all can go down and get coffee, take a smoke break. You can sit down, yeah, you're.
All right, everyone. So I am going to call it for today. I appreciate everybody joining in. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. When we come back tomorrow, we will attempt to finish out day 2, and prepare for day 3. And this one was a lot of video and a lot of pictures, so there wasn't a whole lot that I could comment on, because clearly I wasn't there, so I can't really analyze the pictures or the scene very much. I also don't know what was normal for Melody's household. A lot of the things that seemed off, according to prosecution, such as like the dirt on the tires of the Kubota and things like that, were not uncommon for me to see when I grew up. It didn't matter if I had used our riding mower daily or if it had been a month since I used it last. There was typically still some sort of dirt on the tire, but it also was in a shed and weather couldn't really wash anything off. So it's very interesting for me to see some of these little nitpicky things that they're going on about as like major key pieces of evidence. So again, thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you all tuning in. I can't wait to talk some more tomorrow. And I'm going to continue to catch up in this case. I am also going to continue to catch up on some of the other true crime stuff that I'm following. I am also thinking about featuring one unsolved story. On my channel at the beginning of our lives. Once we get into more of a routine and start building more of a following this way, some of these unseen and unsolved stories kind of get back out there. So I think at the beginning of every live, I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to talk about a story that has been unsolved and just see what we can do if we can find any information on any of these cases. So thank you everybody for joining me. I hope you all have a great rest of your evening, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow.